Dentists, why should you own your dental building? A couple big reasons. One, control. When you own your own dental building, people can't tell you what you can and can't do with your space. It's your space. You're not going to get kicked out after 5 years or 10 years. You own it. You're also going to be paying somebody, so you might as well be paying yourself, because when you own the building, you actually celebrate rent increases because you're being taxed at a much lower rate from that income you're receiving from your rent that you're paying to yourself in a separate LLC. You want to have a totally separate business entity that's separate from your practice, but it's a way that you can generate passive income. And there are a lot of tax benefits, huge tax benefits, depreciation. You have appreciation of the asset. You're paying the asset off over time. And so those are all real benefits of owning your building. For me, my dental buildings, I actually own two locations now. Those are by far my most passive, easiest, most lucrative investments that I've done. And I've done all kinds of dumb investments, all kinds of okay investments, and some pretty good ones. But by far, my dental buildings are the easiest because it's triple net, meaning the practice essentially pays all of the expenses related to the building, the taxes, the insurance, the toilet leaks. My real estate business doesn't fix it. The practice fixes that. And so those all come off of your income, your earned income, which is taxed at a higher rate than passive income from real estate. But I don't own a building, so what do I do? Well, there's a couple options. One, you can consider, well, if you're in an existing building right now, talk to the landlord. There's a lot of landlords that are willing to sell, especially now, 2024. There's a lot of shakiness in the economy. Interest rates are higher. There's going to be a lot of commercial real estate that's going to be coming due. Typically, not so much in the medical dental space, but big commercial buildings. Big banks are going to take, and mid-sized banks are going to take a big hit when a lot of these commercial buildings, for example, downtown Denver is like half vacant. And they're predicting that within 1 to 2 years, there could be 60, 70, 80% vacancy in downtown Denver. And that's just one city. There's a lot of cities that are facing similar problems in Seattle, in Portland, in downtown LA. There's a lot of different areas that are have a lot higher vacancy rate. And so that's going to affect banks one way or the other. And so it's going to affect the whole real estate market, even if it's not specifically affecting the dental buildings. People are going to be more willing to negotiate about selling the existing space. And also you might be able to get seller financing, which with interest rates so high, 7-8% or higher, possibly, you might be able to negotiate with a seller financing deal of 4%, 5%, 6%, whatever. If you can negotiate something lower, everybody wins, and they win because they're getting money by being the bank. They're not going to take a big tax hit. So there's a lot of options for seller financing with commercial real estate, because also you're typically dealing with a real investor. That's not their home. It's somebody who bought it as an investment, and they understand how money works. And if they can sell something, they probably would rather just keep it and have you stay their permanent steady tenant for years. But if you said, I'm looking at buying a building, so either I would like to buy this one or I plan on leaving as soon as my lease is over, they might be more willing to consider. But they say, hey, pound sand, hit the road, I don't care. You can go and I'll rent to somebody else. Good time to start looking for some existing space. And there's a lot of different things to consider with the dental building. You obviously want to look at what's the demographics for your area, who's your ideal clientele, what is the market in your region doing? Are you in an area that's growing? Is it dying? Is it an area that has good visibility? I'm not a big fan of dental buildings in a huge medical dental space where you might be like suite 402 something, where they have to go up and find you and you don't have really good street visibility. Some cities, that's just what it is, and you don't have an option around it. But if you can have a building with nice road frontage, you can put the biggest sign that your city will allow and advertise. It's great marketing. It's a great way to be seen by your community. And good parking is a good thing to consider. Make sure you have plenty of parking. Make sure it's something where it's easy for people to get in and out of, access from the road, access from a freeway if people are coming from out of town. And so those are all things to consider. And there's a lot of commercial space that may be available. And so if you can find even existing space that might have been a previous bank or a dog cleaning business or even a restaurant that went out of business during COVID, and there's vacant space. There's a lot of these existing commercial spaces that could be reutilized as a great dental office with good street visibility, with good parking, and it's a much cheaper to do that versus starting from scratch new. But say, okay, that's still not an option and you got to start new. Still an option where if you can have your own dental building and own it and have total control over it, I would still recommend going that route, even though it might take you 2-3 years to get that done. But eventually it will be done and you can make it just the way you like it. That's the nice thing when you're building from new. But there obviously are a lot more headaches, more potential risk, because you got to deal with permits, you got to deal with cities, with sewer, with yada, yada. There's all kinds of issues that come up when you're building new. And so those can be the problems. But if that's your option, your only option, I would still do it, because I think those are low-hanging fruit where if you can own your building one way or the other, you're going to be practicing. Why not own your own building that you can control, that you can receive the rent, that you can make your rent as high as you possibly can legally justify it, because you're paying yourself and that income is coming in at a lower taxable rate. And so you celebrate rent increases. How about that? Where you smile every time you give yourself a rent increase. So, and eventually it's going to be paid off. I mean, if you're going to practice for 20-30 years, you're going to have that thing paid off, possibly even very much sooner than that. And it's going to be generating steady revenue for you, where your rent could be $4,000, $8,000, $21,000. I know I've got a friend that owns a huge dental building. He's getting 21 grand a month from his dental building. Not even practicing. He can stop practicing and be totally fine just from his dental building. So something to consider. And if you don't own it, I would highly recommend you own your own dental building. If you already own one, looking at a second location could be another one. You could also even look at talking to another dentist. Maybe you got a friend that's in another state or even in town that's looking at opening up a building, or a business, his practice, but he can't afford to have a building. Go in as a partner with him, with his medical space or his dental space, be a co-owner and still get the same benefits, but you can be equally tied, where this other person is going to have the same desire of you as having the rents as high as possible, because he's going to be paying himself while he's paying you. So things to consider. And I definitely think that's a great way to build a lifestyle business as a dentist. Because if you can have a lifestyle where you're making money even when you're not practicing, you can build a great lifestyle. So hope that helps. Thanks.